Things Arm Wrestling, Episode 3. Greg,
Sorry, I fucked that up. I thought when you
let me
said
introduce you, Greg. Thank you for being here. And now go ahead, do it.
All Things Arm Wrestling. I so fucked that up. Sorry.
Awesome. That's okay. We can do it as many times as we want because we have the power. So I want to talk to you about your arm wrestling journey so far. So like you just started, and in many ways I just started. But you're behind me, so then there's a difference. And then we could talk to new people about your experience and how you got into this. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think when you say like you've just started, I look at you and I'm just like, wait a minute, you've just started. Like from my aspect of coming, I'm like, well, you're an expert at this thing. You know what I mean? Like and you have to. I know it's weird, but you have to picture that through my eyeballs because you're looking at people like way ahead of you, but you are the guy who's way ahead of me. Right. So when I first came, I was just like, just trying to learn like, hey, can I experiment? Can I like play around with this? And you were like, I grab hold of you, very nice with the thing, but I'm like, oh my God, this guy's like 10 years ahead of me. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh fuck, I'm screwed here. And then to hear you say that you're like, oh, I feel like I'm a beginner because you are looking at other things. I'm like, that's even a next level. So I can't even picture that. So that's just like, that's my thought process when you say that you still feel like you're a beginner. I find that interesting.
Yeah. And as you were saying all that, I just realized the framework that makes me define why I'm saying I'm a beginner. And the simplest thing is, what's my weight class? And how strong am I for my weight class?
That's what you're looking at.
So when I look at that, that automatically puts me somewhere out of my control, and it just defines me, whether or not I'm capable or I'm just like, you got a long road ahead, buddy. And that's how I look at it. Like I'm a beginner in that sense, because when I pull guys that are my weight exactly, maybe even less than me, and they're stronger than me. Right. And they seem to have, let's say, because of their strength, a winning lane, which is what everyone talks about. You need to find your winning lane. Like, let's say you're just a really good top roller and you top roll a certain way so that you don't deviate. And for whatever reason, you're always going to win statistically with that top roll. That's your winning lane. Use it. Right. And like, I'll go against guys and they're lighter than me, but stronger than me in their winning lane, and I can't do anything no matter what I try because they're so strong. I'm like, well, damn, I lose against this guy. It's a wrap, Right. But luckily, arm wrestling doesn't work that way because you can have, as they always say, the ABC thing. So there's like guy A who can't beat guy B, and guy B beats guy C. Right. But then guy A can beat guy C. So how the fuck and you're like,
well, this doesn't work.
Right.
Like
so
mathematics, that doesn't work.
It's because the guys are different.
Right.
And then there's so many options. So you can't think of it as like, oh, I just suck. This is never going to work. It's like, oh, there's options here and figure it out.
Yeah. So your perspective is interesting because it's a logical perspective. You're comparing yourself to the other guys around you that you're arm wrestling with. It was weird. My perspective might have been different entering into it, which just to say I've only gone 4 times. So I've gone 1 month, and I had no experience before that.
1 month consistent training.
1 month consistent training, but I've had nothing before that. You know what I mean? I was like, besides studying a little bit and watching YouTube videos, and I'd watch Pulling John when I was younger, like 10 years ago, and that like sparked me, and that like stuck in the back of my brain. Besides like a few things like arm wrestling, like a few friends randomly, like once a year or something. It was nothing big, but the point I'm making is you either look at it in a different way than when I entered into it a month ago. I said, what do I want from this? And I looked at it upon me and I said, I want to be better 1 month from now than I am today. And then I said, and 1 month from now, and then a month from then, each month I want to be able to say the same thing. Going, I'm better at this, and I'm better at this compared to, I guess, somebody who has maybe never arm wrestled, or just a strong guy, or somebody who, goes and works out. I want to be better than I was a month ago.
Yeah.
And I try to measure that with the guys that are here, going like at the end, they go, oh shit, you're stronger than last week. And I'm like, oh, good. Or like, hey, you're stronger than 3 weeks ago. I'm like, oh, good. Like I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. Oh, good. Okay. I'm on my path. But the interesting thing, like you're looking at it going like, almost the deviation there is that the guys that you're going with, they're getting better as you get better too. So you're still not looking back at going, was I better a month ago? But you're still measuring yourself as to the next guy who's still growing if he's coming consistently.
That's one of the mind fucks of this.
It is.
Why you can't quit.
Yeah.
Because you're getting better, the other guys are getting better
too.
And we're all getting better together.
That.
So if like you're up against some guys and you can't beat them, or they have like a winning strategy that you can't overcome,
right?
And they keep getting better as you do and you still can't overcome, doesn't mean that you're not making progress. It means you're all progressing together. So it's like the universe.
Dude. You got to
like
measure yourself against somebody who's never done it. And you're like, oh, I'm crushing them.
So like when new guys come in and they haven't been in that machine,
they have to enter with my mentality though. They have to enter going, you're not going in there to fuck everybody up day one. I went in there and I said like, hey, listen, it's my first day. Everyone knows across the table, I haven't done this. Like, don't go nuts on me. And then I was just like, and they would just sit there and, they can just hold and be like, all right, hit me, and I slightly go in and they're like, okay. And then they start teaching you each little bit. And then you go through a round, they're working on things, they'll let you get them, almost to the point of down. And they're sitting there going like, all right, I'm working out my muscle. That's what they're thinking at that point. They're like, all right, now I'm going to come here. But by the end of that, they're telling you like, all right, listen, let's go again. But the next time, see what you did wrong here was this. You didn't have this right. Pronate a bit more from the jump. Kind of get this. What you're going to want to do is turn your wrist, check your watch, and then go down. Like the small minute things that the guys who come all the time know about. It's cool that a beginner can come in without an ego and just be like, hey man, listen, I'm just like super interested in this thing. Like I'm open. Please like teach me, don't kill me. And everybody who comes here is like fucking awesome with that. They're just like, great. Thank you for coming with the energy. Here, I'm going to give you everything I got. Because they were there once. And like, that's the cool thing about this being like a smaller sport. You know what I mean? It's not like the biggest sport on the planet. But once it gets your hooks in you, you're kind of hooked to it. So each person who comes here, it's not really like, oh, okay, like I just stumbled across this. They had to kind of search it out and get into it, and they had to bite into them from the beginning, which is why you're getting a lot of the same guys coming back each week.
Right. That's what I love about the ArmBet thing. Like if you yourself downloaded ArmBet and got on there, and then you came, let's say here, like I already know just the fact that that's how you got here, there's a really good chance that you're going to stick around. Because there are guys that come and they don't even know what ArmBet is, but like they came for whatever
That was
reason.
me. I found
you came
this
through different channels.
Yeah, no, I came through a weird channel when I decided, just to Google, like, I'd watched, for some reason, I watched Pulling John, like, again. It was after that 10-year time, and I watched it once more, and I was just like, man, I kind of want to do that. I had one thing in my backstory of when I was in college. I guess it could be a longer story, but my dad originally had told me a story when I was like a young, like 7, 8-year-old kid, and I was just like, oh, I want to arm wrestle once, like little 7, 8-year-old kid, did nothing with it. But then he told me a story of him back, and he was born in 1940, so this would be like when he was in college, so it was like 1962 or something. And he's a skinny guy like me, and I don't look like a fucking, a guy who could arm wrestle in any way whatsoever, and I'm not to anybody who's really watching, but I'm just getting into it. But for some reason, he had given me this story that he was like, yeah, I used to beat all the football players in arm wrestling on my dorm. And I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't doesn't compute, doesn't make sense.
Right.
And he had, 5 decades or whatever before YouTube, I'm not doing the math right, but you get it. And he was saying like, I used to get him in a good grip, and he was like, he was describing what you'd say, like you'd break somebody's wrist and then you take them down. But he was describing it differently. He's like, I'd roll their wrist and then I would take them down. So the fact that he was doing something with the wrist was throwing this person off who had, obviously some football players never arm wrestled. They're just like, I lift weights, I do whatever. And I had that weird same experience in college as well. I couldn't bench press, 80 pounds. But my friend who was bench pressing like 250 for whatever reason, I'd done tennis for, since I was 7 years old. So I had a lot of weird tendon strength and whatever, at least going on when we were, drunk and said, hey, let's do a random arm wrestling match. So I got in there with him and I literally cracked his wrist and I was able to take him down. He was just sitting there going like, dude, like I can bench press a Buick. You can't lift a television. Like what's going on right now?
Right.
So that like stuck with me in my early 20s. It was just like, oh, that's a cool weird thing. So then when I got coming back to like how I found you, some reason it was becoming like the end of Corona, and I was like, I haven't fucking seen anybody in a year.
Mm-hmm.
I was, I moved back in with my parents. My dad's 80 years old. I was like shopping for groceries to keep them out of the way of potentially getting something because old people can get fucked up. I don't want to go into Corona.
Yeah.
But it's, I was like taking care of the parents, chilling out. And then finally when everything opened back up, the other thing I've been like super into is, martial arts. So I got to go back with to New York Martial Arts Academy. My business partner, James Orfanos, like owns them as well. So I got back into that. And the other thing that I got back into at that time, is like, I really have like this want of like, I want to like just find other people who arm wrestle. Cause I watched, Pulling John again. I was like, I want to kind of get back into that. And I went on Google, went on Facebook and just put in arm wrestling. And I found this one guy who was like, I forget his name. I can look it up. But he said he was like the president of that Facebook arm wrestling association that he had on there. And he had a phone number. And I called him up and I was like, hey, man, you know where like I could arm wrestle like near Queens or New York or like anywhere near here? And he was like, yeah, he's like, let me get back to you. I think what he did is he went to ArmBet and then he found like a guy who had trained with you. And then he's like, gave me that number. And that guy, I said, hey, listen, like, there a place in Brooklyn? I've heard it's not far from me. And he was like, yeah, man, I used to go there a lot. He's like, no, it's super cool. You should go there. And then
Hey, were you talking to Jason?
I think I was talking to Jason. Yeah. I can look it up, but I think his name was Jason.
Came up in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, I haven't been there in a bit, but he's like, no, it's the coolest place to go to. And I was like, this is what a lot of, I guess, sorry, this episode might be more for beginners because I'm super beginner.
That's perfect.
But he was like, and I was like, hey man, listen, like I kept saying like both of them, like, I've never done this. I'm not like, is it okay for beginners to go there? Or is this just like, I'm going to walk into a place where like everyone's like, 900 pounds being like, fuck, who's this like fucking little skinny kid coming in here to, waste our time. He was like, no, man, they're going to be taken care of. You're cool. You're cool. You can just walk in, everything's chill. And I, again, don't have no ego whatsoever. So when I came here, I'm sitting outside and I was waiting for like the doors to come up and be like, what's going on? I saw like one other guy here. Dude, everyone's super fucking chill. Like that's the thing that people need to know if they're getting into this. At least from my experience of what I've seen, there's not insane egos going like, oh, fuck, you think you can do this? Go fuck yourself.
Right.
Like if you come into, like I'm not coming in this, I'm never going to compete in a competition that I have in my mind. That's not my goal.
Yeah.
My goal is not to be like, my goal is to literally, like what I said, be better than I was last month. So if I can come with you guys and like fuck around with that, I'm like, shit, I am feeling stronger than I was a month ago. I hope a month from now I have that same fucking thing going on.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's the perspective that I at least have so far in this.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a lot of interesting points. So what people tell me about other people's practices, because I haven't gone to other practices, like believe it or not, at my age, being over 40, just getting into this in my 40s, just doing the 1 week practice, once a week practice, and then trying to do other things. Like I would normally go to the gym 3-4 times a week. I've just said, I'm just not going to go do the gym thing anymore. I'm just going to do arm wrestling. And then whatever's left over from arm wrestling, I'll use whatever energy I have to do the gym stuff so I can keep it up. But the arm wrestling will take all your energy away. So for me to even try to go to another guy's practice when I have a practice is like, yeah, maybe don't do that unless you really feel like it or you can or it's perfect. So I haven't done that yet.
But it might be cool.
I could see how young people who want to practice twice a week, maybe even 3 times a week, should go to all the practices. You know what I mean? So ours is just 1 day a week. So, it's, believe me, it's enough for me. At the end of my practice, I don't know if you know this or not, or maybe we talked about it, but when you guys are all leaving and it's like 10 o'clock, and I've only pulled, let's say, like 4 guys, and maybe I've done like a good 40 minutes of pulling, which to me, 40 minutes in the gym is all I can do, and that's all I ever needed because it's intense. But over 2 hours, let's say I pulled for 40 minutes, 4 guys, 5 guys, whatever it is, or everybody, whatever, to whatever degree, like that's enough. So like when everything's done and I'm wrapping things up and everybody's out of here, and then I close everything up, and then I'm just here at night, like my CNS is toast. You know what I mean? So like I'm just like, holy shit, I got to eat something. Like I start to feel like I can't even like get it together until I get some food or some ATP going, because like I told somebody, I don't know if you were there, I was like, if I had to jump into a car now and then drive somewhere after this, like I'd be worried that I could fucking like not get into an accident. So like that's how I feel after that 2 hours.
But that's a good you spent it, you know, you gave what you had to give there.
And then that's why I'm sore for 72 hours after that. And it's like, okay, well, that's a thing. And that's happening every week.
It's kind of the point of the workout. Maybe if you were 22,
that's why
you could wake up the next day and fucking do it again. But
because there's motherfuckers that are doing exactly that, right?
Yeah.
So and a lot of these guys that are older and they're pros and they have practices.
Yeah.
They also only want to do once a week because they're older. You know what I mean? So
Brezink was talking about that a lot too.
And the other point that you made is that because I haven't been to other practices, what I have been hearing is that sometimes when you go to other practices, it's not immediately apparent to everyone that it's a really cool, chill thing because people take it so seriously, kind of.
That's
and you got to
problem.
learn to break that ice. One thing that I try to do here is not to have any ice.
Dude, there's none.
Don't break it because it ain't even there. You know what I mean?
There's none. Dude, if I showed up at a place like that the first time and I like sat across some guy and I said, look, listen, this is my first time. Like, I'm coming in here with nothing. Like, can I just feel what's going on? Can we work out? And the guy just like tried to break my arm. I'd be like, dude, that's not a place I'm going back to the next day.
Right. It's
like,
not going to help, right?
It's not going to help. It's going to potentially hurt. I need my hands for my job. You know what I mean? Like
that's one really good way to alienate new pullers.
New people, 100%. Yeah. If a new puller comes in and they're just like, fucking, I'm coming in here. It's like, all right, that's not a nice way to enter into something anyway. But if you let it be known, like, hey, listen, I've been studying this. I've been looking at this. For whatever reason, I've got an interest in it. And, hey, I'd like to do this. Every single guy who's been here has been like, no problem. Hey, listen, do this. Don't put yourself in this position. Hey, listen, all right, we're going to stop. I see you doing something that doesn't look safe here.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you certain tips and pointers. And you're like, all right, cool. If you walked into a place and you just go in and everyone just goes, yeah, I can murder you. Of course, dude, I could walk in here day one. Everyone could have been like, got you. I'm not going to learn that way. And they're not going to be able to either train themselves in a certain way or just be able to give back to the community that this is being, that's being built here.
If people listen to this and they want to know what rules number 1 and rules number 2 of arm wrestling practice are, 1, this is not a competition, so nobody's interested in winning and losing. Number 2, don't go 100%. And a lot of people, if you get those 2 things wrong and you've been to a practice, you're going to, like, you missed the whole point of practice and you might as well have not gone.
Yeah.
So those are really important. The other thing is that because I'm not that strong in comparison to really strong guys, I love that when new guys come in and they know they're not strong or they don't have a lot of experience, I'm perfect for them.
Yeah.
To get up and challenge them or hold them, or maybe they're just stronger than me so that I can be like, oh, there's no way I could take your cup. That's unbelievable. You're new at this. Holy shit. I should just give up now, right? Because I suck. I've been doing this for 8 months and now you just showed up and you're just destroying me. But then I go, oh, but wait a minute. What if you don't do this? Or what if you don't do that? Oh, shit, look, now I got you, right? And that's arm wrestling, right?
Yeah. And you're smart enough to find a way, even if you're going against a weaker guy, you're able to find a way to give tips to them, tell them what they're doing wrong, what they can improve on, but still work yourself out. Like, you're able to put yourself with them in an awkward position to be like, all right, let me do this. Can I work myself out of this? Can I put myself in this type of, all right, like, when we've gone a few times, you've been like, all right, let me put myself like right at the edge. Let me stretch myself. Let me do something weird. And I'm sitting there and you're like, no, go. And I'm like going hard at this thing, which obviously from go, if it's 1, 2, 3, go, you're murdering me. But it's like you've like put yourself out in a strange position. You're like, all right, I'm going to work this here, or I'm going to hold this for 10 seconds. And you're like, you're working your muscles to break that down. So at the end of the night, you're like, I got a good workout in right now. Like there's a way with who you're going with and who you're training with at that time that you can go, how do I get the best workout and how do I teach them something?
Well, I'm going to go one step further to show you what's really going on there in my mind, even beyond that, because you're right about that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
But when I'm all the way down here, let's say, and I want you to pin me, so there's two things happening. I want to see if you can pin me where you only got that much, because if you can't, then we're going to address that. Because when you've got that much, you should be able to pin me no matter what. But sometimes you can't because there's a fundamental technique that's missing. And as soon as you have that, it's like, bam, you pin me, right? So now you don't have to struggle at that end, right? Number two, once I teach you that, as the weeks progress, now you're going to start giving me trouble. So it's a lot of times not about what's happening right now. It's about what's going to happen in the future as we're doing this now, that I'm talking to you, because I see you in the future. And I'm like, this guy is going to be me. When I was here. And then we're going to be like, really challenging each other.
It's almost like
what I see.
Each individual is like a metaphorical different part of a muscle. So in each person, as long as you have the same type of people coming back, 1 or 2 new people enter, it keeps growing. But if you have the majority of the same amount of people who keep coming, you're training each muscle to train the other muscle, and think of that whole group as a whole. Like that's like a metaphorical mindfuck right there.
Well, it's totally true, because think of how like there's so many different guys here and they all have different strengths. And if everyone goes against everyone, everyone's whole arm and all their muscles are all developing in
and they're all
crazy
developing
ways.
Together. Everyone's rising.
Because like if you do the handles and you just do your weaknesses, let's say like I have 3 main weaknesses that I'm always doing with my handles. As a supplemental day, like today we're gonna go and bang some things out. I'll show you what I do. If that's all I did, I'll get better at those. But the table time against everybody is why everything is developing on another level, even though the weaknesses are still there. So that metaphor is real, you know what I mean?
And that's the thing, like when I've always heard like Brzezinski say, like, dude, like table time is the most important. Some guys say that, and then other guys also have the, hey, do the supplemental stuff, or work with bands, work with things, and like I get that, and at home I I play around with bands and certain things, but there's nothing that really compares to when you have another human hand, and you're like, a band is pulling in one direction or something like that. It's doing one thing, but a human hand is sitting there going like, all right, I'm coming here, but now I screwed you. Now I'm coming over here. Now I'm doing this. Now I'm moving this direction. It moves so sporadically different compared on who you're, partnered up and playing there with. That there's just something with that if you never go to a session or to train with other people, you're missing out on such a big part of it. Like you have to do that eventually. If if you're into arm wrestling, you're sitting at home and you're like, I'm playing around with each one of these things. You have to go out and like just take take a time with somebody. I know I'm speaking to like super beginners here, because anybody who's watching this is into arm wrestling is like, yeah, I get that. I might have been doing this 20 years, but what I'm saying is like, to those people out there who are like, I have an interest in it, like find a group near you to go out and start testing yourself with. And I've only been to this one group, but I don't see that community, being a bunch of assholes. You know what I mean? I don't see where the place where you show up to, if you come in right and you're just like, hey, listen, I'm here to learn. It's such, I don't want to say like a full underground sport, but it's a less known sport that people know about. So if you find a way to search it out, each one of those other people who are in there have gone through that same path of finding it out and finding that group. And everyone here has been super welcoming. So it's like, if you're on that edge of thinking like, should I go? Am I scared to go? Just go. Just come in. Nice.
Yeah, and if you really don't like it for whatever reason, then it's fine. Then you figured it out.
You figured it out. Yeah. But like, I don't know. It's kind of hard to find out what you wouldn't like about it.
Well, I see guys come and go, and I could see in their faces sometimes, this guy doesn't want to do this now, but maybe he's here. Maybe his friend said, hey, come, and maybe you'll be good. And what I noticed is sometimes people are super young and they like going to the gym and they want to be strong.
Right.
But then when they do arm wrestling, they feel awkward and they don't have the mental purpose already ingrained that they want to be good at this. So then they're like, oh, yeah, I don't know. It's not for me. So I could see it. And those people kind of come and go or don't come back. And then I always think like, oh, okay, well, maybe that guy won't be back for a while, but maybe like in a year or two, he will for some reason, because maybe he'll realize, oh, fuck, arm wrestling. That's right. I did that.
I haven't tested myself again against that thing. You think it's a defeatist thing where they don't want to, like, I entered in going, I know everyone's going to beat me. Do you think that some of them come in going like, I know I can probably beat everyone in there, and then they come and they go, oh shit, I'm getting pinned. Like, what do you think the psychology of that person is?
So different personally for everyone that you kind of can't say. But you could see it in their eyes when they feel like, yeah, all right, I don't know. And then there's some people that are really good at it and they don't come back here, let's say. That's weird. And I don't know if they're doing anything. And I always like think about, is that a thing? Like, are they going somewhere else and doing other stuff because it's easier to do it there?
Or do they just want to test themselves once, going like, hey, I think I have so much strength. I've been testing things that are certainly like this.
So I'll give you an example.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
There are guys that have been here who are super strong, but they do one of rules number 1 or 2 wrong. So let's say rule number 2 is don't go 100%.
Right.
Most people will do that one wrong more.
Right. And you mean a first-time person to show up is just going 100%.
They're super strong, and they, after 30 minutes of pulling everyone, they're destroyed because they've been redlining, and they don't know where 50% is, 60%, 70%. Right. And then they realize after half an hour,
I'm done. I can't stay here 2 hours.
Even fucking, like, I can't even do anything with my finger.
Couldn't write with a pen.
And then maybe they go home and they're sore for 2 fucking weeks in crazy places. And they're like, I don't know if I like that. And let me deal with this and figure out when the next time I'm going to do this, if I can do this when I figure it out. So that's, I think, part of it. And then there's other things where they do rule number 1 wrong, which is this is not a competition. So there are some guys that have been here where they're good. Maybe they've been arm wrestling all their lives, like just screwing around. So they've been good in their own minds.
Yeah.
So they already have like a thing that they want to do. And then they started watching Devin Larratt videos.
Right.
And then they want to be Devin Larratt, but which is fine. Everybody wants to be Devin Larratt. But like if you're not 6'5" and you're fucking like built like him and with a gigantic fucking hand.
Yeah, that's like, a big thing.
Just, okay, like you're not Devin Larratt. All right, but listen to what he has to say. I want to talk about why he's important. But
sure.
People will come in here and they'll do their signature move and they won't let anyone else win if they're weaker. And then they maybe are also going 100%. So, like, the whole experience, the way they did it, destroys their experience of it.
That person doesn't come back.
And then they disappear. Yeah.
Well, I'm almost glad that person doesn't come back.
Well, that's almost like the weeding out, the natural weeding
100%.
out.
If that person came and they wanted to test something, they did their one thing and that's it, and they're not going to provide back to the group or like potentially a newbie like me who's coming in. Like if I just walked up against a guy and I said, hey, listen, it's my first day, it's my, my first month, whatever, like, can you help me out here? Like, I want to, learn some things. And the guy just bang, crushes me. I'm not, dude, that's not helping me. That's not helping the group. That's just that person's ego going, I'm stronger than you. Fuck you.
That's why I love guys like Lorenzo coming through here, Josh, all the strong motherfuckers, so that they can handle those guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, but they're super awesome. Sitting across from one of them, and then I'm just like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm in Grandpa. And every aspect about them is going, okay, I'm going to help you. They're not gripping up with me going like, okay, I'm going to get a good workout here. They're just like, all right, I can tell you're excited. I can tell you're into this. Like, okay, so what you're going to do here, and we just start and they go, all right, you should kind of do this a little bit more. Remember, come back to the fundamentals, work on this, work on that. And it's like, I'm not even giving them a workout when they're doing it. I'm giving them like a little, like 15% of what they got going on. But they're 100% in that moment of going like, I don't know how they do it. Maybe they're thinking I was you one day or I'm this or whatever. But they're sitting there going like, I'm going to give my next 5 minutes to you to teach you everything. And they do it. I've happened, with Josh now like 3 times. Like he's given that moment of like,
Josh is so good at giving you what you need.
Everything. And he's not phoning it in. He's not like, just do this, just do this.
Yeah.
No, he's not at all. He's sitting there and he's just going like, all right, you're going to do this? Remember again, check your watch, turn your wrist, go to your pocket. He'll let you get to certain spots. He'll let you get this. And then you feel at the end of the night after he's pulled really hard with a bunch of guys, you actually feel at certain moments, you're like, man, I kind of feel like I might be doing better than I was before. And I'm just sitting there going like, yeah, but if this was like, Josh, you got to take him, boom, he's done. Like he can murder you, but he's giving you that.
What's really interesting? I think when I first did the arm bet meetups, I think Josh was the first person to ever show up. So it was like me not having done any of this 8 months of practice diligently yet. And Josh shows up. So it's like me.
Wow.
And like fucking, I was like the same weight I am now, but with less muscle. Because I've lost weight and then gained it, but I've got more muscle on me now from the past 8 months, and he's like 290, so he's got like 100 pounds on me.
Dude, he's a beast,
and I'm like, oh, that's perfect, because I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to give him anything. So I hope he can get enough out of this, and that's how when we started doing resistance bands, where I've got a band on me to make it seem like I'm 30 pounds more force.
That give him what he needed at that time.
Yeah, so then he can even hit into me because I can hold it, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
You're safe during that.
Yeah. Let's talk about the importance of Devin Larratt. So a lot of people come into this because of Devin Larratt, and it has to do with everything we just said. So,
tell me that experience of arm bet, because it's even weird. Like I told you, the guy that I reached out to through Facebook, I believe that he used ArmBet to be able to find the community that you're putting out now. So I was a little bit out of the loop. I think
you're talking about Jason, and Jason was one of the first ArmBet dudes who came right after Josh, and he came here diligently every week, super fucking strong for his size. Dude is 145 pounds.
Shit.
Would destroy me. Because I don't have what he has, and I don't have enough.
Wow.
I don't have enough of what I need to beat him.
And he's 145.
And because of his weight and his age,
how old is he?
And his genetics, super fast. So he's like 28, maybe?
Wow. I never got to meet him. Nicest
maybe
guy.
Maybe not even 28. Like maybe he's 24.
Nicest guy over the phone. And calmed all of my fears of going, hey, listen, what am I walking into? He's like, don't worry, it's a loving environment. You're cool. You're going to be great.
One of the nicest guys. And you know what's cool is like if you watch our videos, Jason's in those first videos. He's in a whole bunch of the.
You got to point him out to me because I watched a bunch of those now, so now I know everybody. So if you go, that's him.
And the thing that really gets me about Jason when he talks to you at the table, because I have no experience hanging out with Jason except on the arm wrestling table. Yeah. So that's how I know him. That's how we always would converse, is over arm wrestling, And the thing about the way he talks, as soon as he would speak, he has this way of speaking from his like regional accent and just the way he is and everything. I swear to God, this guy sounds like an actor. Everything's got so much passion and emotion and delivery behind it, but all he's doing is he's being himself. So like when he tells you something,
he's genuine.
It like really gets there. Because you're like, oh my God, you should be an actor. Because you sound like you're reading the lines perfectly all the time. So that's the one thing about Jason, besides being amazingly fast and strong for his age and size. Right? So that's why he got into this. He's like, I think I might be good for this.
Yeah.
And I think when he came here, he had only been doing it for 5 months.
What was he doing? Just supplemented training on his own, or is he?
Yeah, so he would try to train as often as possible when he's not here, doing other things.
That were arm wrestling related,
I think not
or
table time, right?
Got it.
So
Yeah,
all other things that you could imagine that you might want to do, right?
Strong dude.
Whether it's like gymnastic type things or like gripping with fucking body weight, all kinds of shit, you know?
Athletic guy.
Gymnastics. Like he looks like a gymnast, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he was here for quite a while, and it was he was one of the guys where we were just like, oh, he's the guy who's like 145, and let's see who he can go up against and see what he does. Because there would be guys who would come here who were like 180, which is, let's say I'm 185, right? So there'd be like 180 guys. So already I'm 5 pounds too much. And they would just destroy me any day, all day, as if I was a girl, right? So, but then I'd be like, well, let's see how they do against Jason. And then, you know, Jason would have something for them, but these guys have been doing it for over 3 years now. So you can't even compare it. You know what I mean? And they're all younger than me. So I'm just like in this weird zone now where I'm older, I'm horrible, and I'm learning, and I'm like, it's all good somehow, right? So I'm not interested in quitting or being what do you call it, depressed about it.
Yeah, no,
it's all wonderful.
You can't
so
go in like that.
So what you said about being better than your former self, like if I arm wrestled my 8 months ago self, I would destroy myself, and that's all I want. So the other goal that I wanted to tell you before we talk about
was
Devin Larratt,
the guy at the bar, being with the fictitious guy at the bar.
The only goal that I have here right now,
or your cousin, or
I want to just be able to beat anybody who's not an arm wrestler who thinks they can beat everyone at arm wrestling.
Super strong dude at the bar who's going like, I can get all of you.
Well, I bet you can't beat me.
Yeah. Hey, bro. All right.
You know, that's who I want to.
I think that's
what get to that level.
I think that's what a lot of like. I think many people might not say that, but that's kind of like a cool thing in the back of like.
It's a general of like, where am I going to fit in? Yeah, because once I get to there, then I can start imagining. Oh, okay, so now I should do something with this. Now let me think about doing tournaments.
Yeah,
now
tell me about that, because I don't have that, and I'm also 4 weeks in, so I couldn't even. That's 5 million light years away from what I could even potentially think about doing, and it's not a goal. But
I'll give you an example.
Me yours. I would love to hear
when
this.
Josh first came here and we started training regularly, and we were like, "Oh, this is awesome! This is so awesome!" Because we would do table time on Thursday with armbet people if they showed up, if they didn't, whatever. It was always me and Josh being here, and then we would do a supplemental day like today, where we would do pulleys with multi spinners and all that shit. And then, like, we just kind of loosely said to each other, yeah, you know, a year from now, we should enter a tournament. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, depending.
Had he not entered a tournament at that time?
Yeah, I don't think he had at all. He was just, because he was also kind of beginning, you know?
Wow. I didn't know he just began like a year ago?
Yeah. Yeah, he hasn't been, like, serious either. Like, because it takes that serious training at a place with the table to really say you've been doing it.
Yeah.
But he has gone to practices with pros, like out on Long Island and stuff like that. And he did
a tournament
came here.
at least. He at least did one.
Oh, yeah. So since then, he's done it. But like, I'm sitting here like, you know, it hasn't even been a year yet, so I'm not going to sit here and bullshit myself like, I'm going to go and do it. Not that I'm trying to prove anything. It's just that like, I'm like, well, look, I know what I can do and what I can't do at practice. I don't see why I even care about the tournament. No. Some people are like, I just want to feel it and do it and it'll be fun. I'm like, okay, well, go have fun with that. That's good for you. You should. I'm like, okay, whatever.
But if your initial goal was like, I want to be the strongest guy at the bar, that's almost like different than a tournament level.
Well, let me tell you the other thing that you said. So like my cousin, if you look at our videos on our YouTube page, there's like that one short thing where my cousin came here one day. Because
I don't know if that was him when I was watching. I don't know if I noted that.
The video is called Farmboy Destroys Cityboy. So my cousin...
That sounds familiar. I might have seen that. I didn't record him as your cousin, but I got to, in my brain, watch that back.
So it's just me and my cousin in the garage when he was able to come through. And this was a year ago. So this is before Armbat. And I'm like
you just got a table.
Like
and
I had
just...
a table for quite a few months, and we've been practicing a little bit, and then maybe COVID started and we stopped practicing,
right.
and now we're getting back into it. But Armbet's not out yet, so it was last summer basically, right? And I'm like trying to train. I'm still doing gym lifts, so I'm like a little bit more buff or whatever. But like it has nothing to do with arm wrestling, right? And
weirdly, yeah,
and he just comes over like after work because he's a construction worker.
That's a big factor, though. He's a construction
and I'm
worker.
just laughing about how he takes me down in all these ways, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I got nothing. Like, go ahead. Like, just turn me over. Go ahead. Do the wrist thing. Go ahead. Do it. You know, it's like, that's all it was.
He's inadvertently been practicing forearm wrestling without knowing about it. It's like the Karate Kid version of just like, paint the fence, do this. He's been doing all of that inadvertently for years. So he's like, oh, I got this.
That's exactly
break your wrist.
What it is.
Fuck you. I got you down.
And the funny thing about that video, Farmboy destroys Cityboy, is that I literally tell him how good he is. And he's looking at me like, huh. Yeah.
He had no idea.
I mean, I guess I just have hella wrists, he says. Like he's like looking at me like, that's interesting. And I'm just like, what have I been telling you this whole time? Like, you looking at me like I'm telling you this for the first time. And I'm just like, dude, you know I'm no pro arm wrestler, but like, you know I work out and all this stuff, and I'm strong and healthy and all this shit for who I am or whatever.
Yeah.
And you just destroy me, and you don't work out. You don't even go to a gym.
But he's going to a gym 8 hours a day.
That's what it is. And he goes to me in the video. He's like, so if you were, because I don't do anything. Like maybe I do push-ups sometimes.
Yeah. He's working out 8 hours a day, and he's blasé.
And he's like, so
that.
all like besides construction, I don't do anything. He's like, so what would you do? And I was like, what would I do? I would do construction. And he just starts laughing, and I'm like, that's what it is, bro.
Besides construction, I don't do any working out. Basically, that's kind of like saying, besides working out, I don't work out.
Right.
Like,
besides training specifically for arm wrestling at work.
My wrists, my everything.
What should I do?
This has been your thing of going like, you haven't arm wrestled him in a while, so he's a really cool benchmark because he's obviously probably been working throughout the entire time, still has the same strength. You've been specifically training arm wrestling. So one of your things is going to be like, hey, can I get him back on the table? And to not judge yourself against him, but to judge yourself against the earlier self of you is by going up against him. Like, is that like a thing you're thinking? I don't mean to get like psychological
so
there, but
if I can crack his wrist and take him down technically with strength every time, so that now he is forced to think technically to take me down because I know he can, that's when I know I'm ready.
That's
because
cool.
if I have to go up against guys like him who are 170 with a hand and a wrist like that with technique at a tournament, I got no chance. So if I could do him and he's got no technique yet, then at least now we're just breaking through the fucking threshold. That's the way I view it.
That comes back to like the barrier I was talking about. You're judging yourself versus you're judging your benefit against other people in that type of way. And he's kind of like oh shit, this guy really fucking got me.
Hand.
Oh my God. Yeah, that hand is like God's hand to you. It was like, it
I always tell
destroyed
him, like,
me.
as soon as I grip up with him, I'm like, I already know I'm going to lose.
You know you're done. Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to win.
You're just like, that's not working out right now.
Yeah, I'm like, this is a fucking... like, we're not even, like, I'm at the wrong place at the wrong time right now. Like, why am I here?
You're like Arnold would like go up against Franco, and Franco's a child. He's a child. And you're just like, you're the child going like, oh shit.
Exactly, that's what it is. Oh, so the thing about Devin Larratt that makes this work on the level that it's working, which I think is why people like you are here. Not specifically you, but generally people like
through
you.
proxy, I'm here because of Armbet. Yeah.
So you got your John Brzezinks, and during the era of John Brzezinck, so let's say the 80s through the 90s, right into the 2000s, there was none of that Devin Larratt's going to teach you everything stuff on YouTube.
Right.
There wasn't even a YouTube yet, right?
Yeah,
so let's say all the way up until YouTube. All you had was finding someone by chance to do table time with, or people that you knew or people in your family were arm wrestlers, so you did that.
Right.
Which is like, what are the chances of that? Slim to none, right? So it's a very niche group.
You're Travis Bajan, who my father had a... like.
Everything is family, right?
So, yeah.
So you knew these guys kicked ass, and they kicked ass with their strength, and they didn't really talk about it. You didn't really... Even those old Gary Roberts videos where he's got footage upon footage upon footage of everyone talking into his camera... There's no Devin Larratt talking to you about the hill and this and that and the A side, B
giving
side,
it all out. Yeah.
Negative, positive, fucking top roll, inside, outside. Nobody's talking about that until Devin Larratt and YouTube. And he's the guy that makes guys like you and me go, oh, so it's not just I'm built for this and I'm destroying.
Yeah.
Which anybody can work on.
Right.
There's this whole technical aspect that keeps evolving as you get stronger. So it's never the same. It's always evolving as you're evolving. So it always keeps you going for decades. Then you're like, oh, so if I just do it, and then that's the important thing is what is the timeline that you're giving yourself? So I already said right away, when I'm plucking down $600 for a goddamn arm wrestling table, and I'm like, I probably shouldn't even be buying this. Like, why am I doing it? It's because I'm like, okay, well, I have to give myself 3 years in this. And at no point should I be saying, all right, it's time to sell the arm wrestling table, you know?
No,
like, I have to give myself 3 years. And instead of selling the arm wrestling table because I'm not doing that anymore... I'm buying another arm wrestling table and handles and all this shit. And it's like, yeah, and you're using that and you're progressing week by week. There's no week where you just said, I'm not doing this unless you literally can't do it. Okay. So the thing is, if you give yourself the right window of, I guess what you call it is your progression, your initial progression from where you started. Just go by that and be honest. And then you'll find yourself at that 3-year mark. Because when you start meeting in the beginning, those people that are in that 2 or 3 year mark, you're like baffled by how strong and how good they are. And the reason why it's baffling is because you have to have that 3 years.
Right. But almost to go back to that fact of like, I'm nothing. I've had the 4 weeks. And I go up against a guy like you who's had coming up on the year. But to me, there's no difference between pulling against you who's had 1 year and pulling against a guy who's had 3 years. But
I feel the same way, yeah.
But because they're also being, nice and they're not just either way. If I got slammed against you or if I got slammed against a guy of 3 years, all right, it's 3 microseconds. Like I'm down either way. But either way, I
when
feel
someone's a wall.
Yeah,
they're all a wall.
Yeah, they're all a wall. To a beginner, they're all a wall.
Yeah,
like it doesn't matter. It's a wall. But what to you has made you, get that thing where you're going like I'm going for the long run. You're from the beginning looking at that 3 years, and you're looking at that against other people who are also growing that thing. What's that thing that's forced you to do that?
That's a good question because I already know the answer now that I thought about it. For the first time. It's because when I first saw the thing that got me interested in it, which I talked about, I think with Josh on the first episode, I mentioned to him how I saw Devin Larratt against Michael Todd when Devin Larratt lost. And that was the first thing I saw. And the only thing I thought was, why do these people act like this? And this looks like some newer version of the thing that I saw a long time ago, like in Over the Top.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, so this is a thing or is it not a thing? Is it lame? Does this hold up? And I'm looking at it, I'm judging it. And I see Devin Larratt for the first time and I'm like, oh, that guy looks like such a fucking jerk. And I'm like, look at how he is. He's such a jerk.
I remember you
like he looks at how jerky he is. And then Michael Todd, I'm like, that guy just looks like a big, monstrous kind of I don't know, like maybe more intimidating, whereas the other guy's
like a Hulk dude. Yeah.
The thing about the way Devin Larratt does his personality at the table, he kind of seems like he's the guy, he's the trickster. You know, that's why he comes off as a jerk. He looks like the trickster, and he's already evolved as an arm wrestler so that he's up there to play the mind games and play to the camera and use all of his techniques because he's so evolved in technique.
Thing when he was with him and he's like, yeah, I'm going high, take this. Like, you're just like, oh shit, this guy.
The fact that he's like the guy who's known for like creating the high hookers. You know what I mean? It's like, that's a thing. And it wasn't a thing really in the Brzezinski era. You know? That whole like, oh, this is the technique we use, and we're from here, and you can't.
He's kind of opened up that book to be like,
and it's the trickster kind of personality in him because he's like that tall, long, lanky guy. Where if you don't see him in real life, you see him on video.
Right.
Like for all you know, that guy's like 6 feet tall and like 200 pounds, and you're like, who is this guy? Like he's got no chance. You don't realize that he's a giant. Mantis of a being. And then Michael Todd next to him is just this big brutish kind of fucking dude.
Totally different body types when it comes to that.
And you're like, oh, what's going to happen? And then Devin Larratt loses and you're like, oh my God, the jerk lost. But, you know, so anyway, that thing opened my eyes. So I saw it like almost for the first time for what it is. So to answer your question without going on rambling about that bullshit is since then, I just kept watching and kept watching. And I'm realizing who Devin Larratt is and how he teaches and what he teaches and what it all is compared to, oh, this looks stupid because I go to the gym and I do squats and deadlifts and bench presses. This looks stupid. Oh, because I do pull-ups and because I do rows. That looks stupid. Like, that's all I thought. It's like, what is this? How is? I thought the gym stuff translates to arm wrestling, but it doesn't, right? So that was like, I don't know, that was like 2 years ago.
So very small amount of the gym stuff translates specifically
so you have
to the
like
muscles
learn that at first at some point before you get on a table. And that's like, so I had like a good 6 months of just watching and learning until I was like, oh my God, so what are these tables? Who's the redheaded guy in Australia? He seems to seems to know a lot of stuff too.
Yeah.
Is he somebody I should listen to?
Yeah.
Oh, he calls himself pound for pound. Oh, then there's this guy NBK. Oh, and then there's this guy Top Roll King. Oh, and then there's the Russians. And then you're like, oh, so
who's this loud guy from Florida, Chance Shaw? Oh, he's interesting. Oh, wow, now he's going up against.
Let's just say that's as far as I got.
Oh, gotcha.
4 guys, right?
Okay.
4 or 5 guys. And now I'm over there ordering a table. So like,
so you from that was because before people
realized
know, like, you have a thing now where people come, but even prior to anyone coming, you got the table.
6 months of watching and learning before I even
becoming a fanatic. Yeah, it was the same thing. That
table.
Yeah, it's the same thing that everyone goes through before like deciding to come to a group like that.
So to give you the correct timeline, so Halloween Saturday of 2019, my table arrives.
Wow.
And then like 13 people arm wrestle at my house on my table.
How did you have that happen?
Day.
How did you have that happen day one? How did that happen?
So we throw Halloween parties here.
Right.
And like we get like 20 people, right? And my arm wrestling table shows up the day of the Halloween party.
I'm coming this Halloween. Just so
we
you know.
arm wrestled. Everyone arm wrestled that day, right?
That's so cool.
But, so that's when I got my table. October 26th of 2019.
Wow.
FedEx came that afternoon.
Were you freaking out? Were you
I was like,
I
oh
finally
my
got
God,
the fucking
it's
table.
happening for the party. I was like, yes, right? Then, a year later, Armbeck comes out. You see?
Yeah, tell me about that. Sorry, not to be Walter Cronkite here, but
no, please.
I would love to know the moment that happened because I learned about that a year after it came, and I didn't know about it. So I was like,
"Oh, it hasn't been a year yet."
Well, I learned about it 8 months, 7 months, whatever it is after that. But I was like, "That's revolutionary," and that's where like he hit a market of like, "What the fuck?" Because again, I learned about you by proxy through that.
Yeah.
if without that, that was the, what was the silly joke? It's like grinder for arm wrestling or whatever the fuck it, it's like,
that's totally what it is.
It's literally just like, hey, bros want to get together and fucking like, hey, I want to test my strength. I want to work out some stuff. But it's like, that's a funny aspect of a way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm. So what was your question? Like, how did it?
Prior to that, would there have been a way to, social network Facebook this thing like together without that?
Too hard. Yeah. So I swore off Facebook. I was like, Facebook is a waste of everything, and it's only here to like not help you and take advantage of you in every way. Yet somehow people are on it, and I was like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to waste my time in there. And I got lots of friends who start their day on Facebook, and I'm like, God bless you. I don't know why you're doing it, but hopefully
teach their own. You like it?
So then because all these arm wrestling groups are only on Facebook, now I'm logging into Facebook for the first time, and I'm only on there to go straight to the arm wrestling groups and join them and see what they're all talking about. And I'm like trying to get everything out of there. And then people are posting, where I'm in New York, where do I practice? And people are like, here's the map, dude, here's the network. And it's like, it feels so 1998, where you're just like, no, it's not
where we should be at this technological point of view of where we're at right now.
It's like the internet's here, but it's not really easy to really get all the information and make it happen, right?
Right.
And then a bunch of that bullshit and me kind of just watching things and going, well, whatever. I mean, it's like, it just didn't feel like I wanted to do anything except practice on my own. So it was just like literally me and two other guys, one of them being my cousin and Deborah. We would sit here and like, we were like, hey, every Tuesday night, come over, we'll arm wrestle in my living room on my table. And we did. And that's all we did all the way up until COVID. Because COVID, the media scared everyone through what COVID was. In March, it scared everyone to not be near each other. So we couldn't arm wrestle. That's what it was. So it ended. In middle of March, arm wrestling ended. And then it was like, everybody was just kind of like, and like, I just had to like learn how to train. It was just me and my fucking multi-spinner and shit, like a fucking asshole with pulleys because I got this table and I'm like, well, I got a long road ahead. And then Armbet comes out October out of nowhere because Devin Larratt's like, this thing's coming.
Yeah,
he's talking about it.
This is what I'm interested in. Yeah, what was that nexus like when the moment that you went like, oh shit, Armbet came out? Because I don't have that in real time.
Now I remember.
What is that?
So he's talking about it on his channel. He's saying he's gonna have this app and it's for arm wrestling.
So he's hyping it.
So it's not even out yet, and he says, but go to armbet.net and sign up. So I was one of the first bunch of people to sign up, and there's no app yet. And I'm sitting there waiting, and all it is a page.
And you don't know exactly what it is yet?
It just says that it's going to do this. It's going to bring arm wrestlers together.
He created Facebook for arm wrestlers. Like,
yeah,
that's basically
but all
what he
it was log in, like sign up, and then all it said was, yes, you're signed up. And it was just like...
And you're like, what the fuck?
We'll let you know. That's all it was.
Yeah, they're testing the waters.
So you're sitting there going, oh, they're developing it.
Right.
So there's terminology for that where it's called like the
beta testing.
MVP or whatever the hell it is. Most valuable product or some shit. So they were waiting to get that out. And then I'm sitting there like, yo, when is this thing happening? Because I don't even know what month that was when I signed up. Because it wasn't October. You know, it must have been like August or some shit. And then he announced it. He's like, Armbet's out today or whatever. And then I was like, oh my God. And we're all downloading it. We're all like getting it. And then all of a sudden everyone can message each other and see each other on the map. Things were still weird. Like I could never upload a picture. So I had no picture. And some things were a little bit buggy, but it was all there. It was all working to the degree where people could come and
the idea of people getting together to arm wrestle.
And it tells you like, oh, do you have a table? What's your weight class? What's your experience? And then write something about yourself. And that's all I did. And one of the things was like, yes, I have a table. So I was just like, oh.
It's kind of unique though that you have this specific spot that you have. You're like, pull up. I'm in Queens. I got a garage.
Well, that's why
put up two tables. Like, that's awesome.
One of the things I took advantage of having a garage is cleaning out an area so that like 6 years ago, I bought all my own gym equipment, so I never have to go to a gym anymore.
Yeah.
Because I've been going to a gym so often that I know I only need this stuff.
Right.
So I was like, well, just buy that stuff.
And that's all you need.
And it's like, I don't need a gym.
Why do I need to
have one?
Take a train or walk 45 minutes? It's like, it gives you less excuses too. You can be like, my bed is over here and 50 feet away. Here's the way that I can work out right now. So you're like,
and so you never have to leave the house. You can literally work out in any clothes that you want, whether it's fucking boots and jeans, or fucking shorts and pajamas or whatever.
Whenever you want. That works into
2
that
in the
day,
morning, whatever, right? Exactly. And so it's not so hard to just have your arm wrestling table right there and be like, okay, if I pull my car out, we can have 15 people in here, you know? So it's like, that's where that is. And then it's like, so the arm bet thing was like, we all signed up. We were waiting for it to happen. So when it did, we started messaging each other. And because I had a table, I was like,
dude, you're God if you have a table.
People are automatically...
You're literally God if you have a table.
They're automatically asking me,
yeah.
So how do we, like, when do we want to should we get together? So then, because Josh was one of the first guys and he lives near me.
Really? I didn't know where he lives. Oh,
dude,
shit.
Can walk here. That's the other reason why Josh is an easier contact, just like Constantine. Constantine lives nearby here too.
Really?
So those two guys, like, it's easy for me to say,
but without
hey,
arm bet, you wouldn't have.
We never would have even known we exist. So Josh is there, super excited and passionate in the neighborhood practically. Wow. We don't even know it until arm bet, right?
Wow.
So it is Grinder. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we found each other. You know what I mean? So then Josh is like, yo, so I was like, I can do anytime, any day, any night, whatever. He's like,
down.
He's like, well, okay, so let me figure it out because I got to do this and this. He's like, how's Thursday night? I'm like, perfect. So then I just wrote, hey, Thursday nights here. Anybody else? So then it just kind of happened that way.
It culminates.
So now it became a Thursday night because we just kind of arbitrarily said Thursday night, and everybody came for Thursday night. So then now that's what it is, and it's like I'm known for like the Thursday night.
Yeah,
thing.
The Thursday night. You're starting it after work. Anybody can fucking come, dude.
So that's how it happened.
So anybody listening, like, they should, if you're just watching these videos, like, there's no problem of just fucking coming. Like, just come.
Yeah, and like Constantine is a really great example of someone who's like come for like over a month and got a lot of practice all the way up.
He's only come a month?
Well, it's been like 2 months now, but he's come for like 5 weeks straight until everything hurt so much that he had to take a break.
But he's fucking... like, I mean, obviously I'm month 1, but he's like a beast.
He is a beast because me and him actually are very similar in weight, even though he's a lot taller than me.
Yeah.
And we're very similar in strength. So when me and him go against each other, it's like the perfect matchup. Shit. So like I'm giving it my all and he's giving it his all and we're trying all different things.
See, that's the testing yourself is such a cool part about this.
Are a perfect match. Like if he didn't need this time off to heal a little bit and just fucking like recuperate from how hard he's going in the beginning because the beginning stage is tough. You need to get over those first couple of months. He's doing that now. Like if I still had Constantine to go against, like we could test each other really well. So as soon as he heals so that he can go up against me every week and we go hard so that he doesn't hurt himself, and obviously so nobody here hurts each other, but he and I can grow like together in sync because we're so well matched, you know what I mean? Yeah. But anyway, we kind of went longer than I wanted to, and it's about that time to end it.
Sorry.
No, it has nothing to do with that. It's just that like we don't want to be here for 2 hours. This is actually really good. We've been doing this for an hour.
Yeah,
and there's so much that we could do this for 2 hours. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, I know it is.
But we got other episodes coming, and you're welcome to come and do the podcast another time. And we're trying to get other guys.
A bunch of other guys here that need to be here
because we need other opinions, and everyone needs to hear about everyone's experiences. So thank you again for coming to All Things Arm Wrestling.
All Things Arm Wrestling.